Good morning and welcome to the Morning Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cam, coming to you as always from the Spotlight Studios here in Morristown, New Jersey. My guest today is an artist and designer launching her namesake brand after 10 years of renovating and selling her own homes across multiple U.S. states. What seemed like a windy road culminated in an interior design company which specialized in monochromatic, elegant, and above all else, synergistic designs. Obviously, that's what we do here in the Spotlight Studios. That's what I pretty much put together back here. Her goal is to bring an enlightened atmosphere to every space she creates. She is Samaan Noumi. Kathy, welcome.
Hey, guys.
I'm pumped to have you. Are you excited to be on your first ever podcast episode? I mean, you got to bring it. Like, let's go. We're doing it. We're doing it live.
I'm really excited. It's interesting kind of doing this because I'm not a in front of the camera kind of person, but I think you had my friend on a couple of weeks ago, Nicole Cruz.
Right.
Have to do it. It's so cool. I was like, all right, peer pressure. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. We're all about peer pressure here on the show. So, so this, believe it or not, this is not a real wall. I don't know if you could tell.
No, I mean, it's like a picture, right? Like one of those.
It's a green screen. Yeah. So would this be something that would fall under your, like you would say that this is a good design or a bad design? Or maybe it just meets my personality. How does that work? I don't know.
I think it represents your personality. I'll say that. It's not my aesthetic, as you can see.
Yeah, definitely not.
Much different aesthetic. But I think that everyone in their space should feel comfortable. So if that spoke to you, there's a reason it spoke to you. It feels like a little bit looser. It has that sort of like organic feel with the brick. And so it feels more you.
Yeah. Oh,
that's why you're in a t-shirt and I'm here in like a buttoned up suit in 90-degree weather. Like
right. Yeah. Well, I mean, this may or may not be my apartment also. Okay. So I haven't left the apartment today. So and we usually wear t-shirts anyway. I don't know why I'm making an excuse for wearing a t-shirt on this show. We pretty much only wear t-shirts here. So that was one thing that I was interested because I have a couple friends that are in like the space design, what you're doing, interior design, space design. I don't even know what that is. It's like going to outer space. But interior design, like stuff like that. And I'm always curious, like, do you have things like this is a Kathy? Like this is what I do, and I'm going to go into your space and transform it like your vision. Or like, I mean, I was joking about this wall, but I think that's another thing that's interesting. Maybe do you have to take the personality or the vibe of the people that you're working with into account as well?
I think I do a little bit of both. There are some designs that I do because the client doesn't even know what they want. It feels very me and not so much them because they're constantly confused and they're like, no, you take care of it. And you can see that come through in the design because it's mostly me making the decisions. But when a person comes to me and they have a very clear vision, I'll give an example. I'm working on a project in Morristown right now where we're creating a theater space in a basement. And this particular client really wanted it to have a 1970s sort of disco, like old Bollywood theme. And so that is not me. But because I could feel and sort of sense what she wanted, we created this amazing sort of like orange and browns. And we brought in these like velvets and we're putting like velvet on the walls, cool disco planters. I mean, we went all in.
Yeah.
That's not necessarily my aesthetic, but so it depends. I guess it's a little bit of both.
Yeah.
But with that said, because I'm more of like a monochromatic type of person, and that's the way I design, a lot of my designs are very tonal. So you'll see like a lot of layers of colors that are very similar versus other people design where it's like pops of like bold color. Now this is bold, but there's no other colors in here. It's just white and black. And for some people, it's like they'll have a white background, but then they'll have like neon pink or neon yellow or something crazy. That's definitely not me, or not yet. Maybe I'll evolve into that designer later on, but for now.
Maybe. Yeah. Well, it's crazy too. Like, I mean, just from a observant standpoint, like you have the white and the black and that's it. And then you're also wearing a white, jacket and everything. So like you really commit to this monochromatic thing. Like I respect
Yeah.
on the on the aesthetic.
It's an
Yeah.
ongoing battle I have with friends and family. They're like, can you wear any other colors? I'm like, no, I cannot. Leave me alone. It's where I feel comfortable.
Right.
So like half my closet's black and then the other half's like kind of white. And I have a little bit of brown just to break it up. But
Yeah,
that's
like the shelves are a little brown. Yeah.
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 That's me like breaking out of my shell.
Yeah, white, black, brown. Yeah, we're getting aggressive with the colors for sure. So I find that interesting too. Like the you said like the Bollywood type thing with the movie theater. So when you get a project like that, do you have to do a lot of research on what maybe that type of environment may have looked like back in whatever? I mean, what do you say, 70s or something like that?
Yeah.
You have to like go back and do like historical research on designs of that time period.
Sometimes for her, I think she had a very clear vision. Like she gave me material to work off of. So generally what I do is I go online and I find some inspirational pictures. So there was things that I really loved about old Bollywood that I kind of picked, and we got these vintage Bollywood posters that we're incorporating and things like that. And when we come up with the color palette, even we pull from those types of things. So we have our inspirational photos, we have things that we take from history, and especially in architecture. So like there's a lot of people that come to me and they're like, oh, I love Art Deco. Well, great. There's so much Art Deco out there that I can pull from. I mean, the Empire State Building even. So there's so many things that are really cool architectural pieces that we pull from, and online has so many resources, and like Pinterest, like people can just dive into Pinterest and never come out.
Yeah.
I'm working on a cafe, and they have, all they gave me was their logo. Their logo is a pineapple. So I took that and sort of ran with it. I'm like, okay, if we're doing pineapples, we're going all in with pineapples. I went online and I was like, all right, pineapples, like what can I come up with pineapples? And we decided to do those. I'm sure you've seen kids play with those like squishable things.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's buy like a bajillion squishables, cut them in half, and then stick them on your wall. So we're going to have this like awesome sort of Instagram moment. And because I went online and I was like searching all these things and like pulling some cool, Instagram moments that I've seen online, I started sort of like let the wheels turn a little bit. And I think that's key in every single design. It doesn't necessarily have to be just for businesses, even for people's homes. Like you said, like this old Bollywood storyline that you wanted to create for that space. That's why we bring in even textures. So like 1970s is known for like lush textures. And so that's why I was like, let's put velvet on the wall, or let's, hang these disco planters. But she didn't want a disco ball, but I was like, all right, well, what if it's a planter? Like, what if we add greens to it? What if we, pull these sort of vintage things and sort of give them our own twist, because we don't want it to feel too in the past where it doesn't fit our lives now. Right. So I think it's interesting to sort of play with it all.
Yeah. No, it sounds kind of cool. I mean, like, again, my aesthetic for this apartment was very minimal. And then my girlfriend moved in and she's like, we got to change this whole thing. Like, I mean, we're not doing this. So, and I was like,
every guy's life.
Yeah. I was like, I don't care. She's like, we're getting rid of this baseball poster and this baseball picture and this, Abbott and Costello thing here on the wall. Like, it's all coming down and we're putting up, whatever else. But, it definitely looks a lot better. So I'll give it to her. I was resistant at first, but eventually I caved. So how does one get involved in this type of business? Like, how do you, like, you've been doing this for 10 years, you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how does this get started?
So I'll give you a little background on me. My family is in construction, and so we do multi-unit builds. And that just means we build apartment buildings, and we do mid-rise. So that means anywhere between like 30 to 60 units per building. And so, when I was younger, I didn't really have a say, and I would see, that this didn't really match that, because I traditionally actually studied fashion design. So I do have a design background, not in interiors, traditionally, like in the school setting. And I can tell, because I focused on color in college and art history, that certain things didn't, even at a very young age, didn't feel right to me. So as I got older, I'd be like, oh, hey, how about we do this, or we tweak this, let's paint it this way. And then I slowly grew into, we bought these houses and now we're renovating that. Like we would gut the entire house and I would kind of have free will. And our homes would sit on the market for a maximum of like 12 days. I don't think any of our homes had sat on the market for any extended period of time up until the pandemic. But the very first house we bought a foreclosure, we gutted some of it, not all of it, and renovated the spots that made sense, like the bathrooms and things like that. And we finished the attic, which was huge, into an office space and things like that. And when we put it on the market, we had an accepted offer in like 10 days. And that was back in maybe 2013, I think it was. And then we moved on. We moved to Cleveland. We lived in an apartment for a little bit, hated it. And then we bought another house and I was like, yay, got reno. And that 3-month reno turned into a 8-month reno. But when we turned around to go sell it, I think that was 2016, 17, something around there. It was on the market, actually it pre-sold. I should say the person who bought it put in an offer sight unseen. We waited until they saw it. Like they put in the offer, but we didn't accept it until they saw it. At that point, that was an unheard of thing. Like who buys a house sight unseen?
Right.
Prior to the year that we've all, or the last 2 years that we've lived. So that was an interesting scenario that happened to us. It was great. I think the community that we bought in was sought after, which was good on our end. And we built a house after that and we moved in again. We moved a total of 9 times. So we're up there in the numbers on the moving. And I think we're probably going to move 2 more times, which is not great, but
well, it is what it is, I guess. Yeah.
We hope to, since we're finally back in New Jersey, like where I grew up, I'm hoping to stay here.
Right.
And, grow my business further. And I opened this official business after I had taken on some projects for friends. And I sort of got the feedback that I did. And I decided to, because I'm a very self-learner kind of person, I met another designer and she's like, hey, do you know this program? And I was like, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. She's like, you need to learn it. So in 3 months, I taught myself how to use it. And now I use it for all of my designs. It's a 3D program called Foyer. And it's just been kind of almost like a godsend. Like some people can't visualize what things will turn out to be. And It's probably 95% of people. And so it's a great tool that I utilize on a daily basis. And then because I've been around business all my life, I think running a business was always something that I wanted to do. I didn't know that it would necessarily be in this business, but I'm glad that it is. And I'm going to knock on wood because I've been very busy. And it's been, growing and growing. So it's been great. I think if you thrived through the pandemic, I think you can survive anything.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're based here in New Jersey right now. And obviously, like you said, you've moved around quite a bit, but when like these projects that you work on, are they all New Jersey projects or are you doing stuff beyond our state?
No, I do stuff beyond this state. I will drive out to Pennsylvania. I've got 2 clients there now. And then I will travel to Connecticut. I have not gotten a client in Connecticut yet. But it's just, it really depends on who calls me.
Right.
And, I've got clients out in Marlborough and we're over here in Passaic and then we live out in Morris County. And so I'm everywhere. Wherever you need me to be, I'll go.
Wherever the business is. Yeah.
Wherever the business is. Yeah.
Right. So, we've kind of talked about the last year, and I don't know if this is necessarily something that you would get yourself involved in as doing what you do, but obviously residential markets were kind of crazy over the last year. People move out of the city, people moving into, out by me here in Morristown and further west into like Madison and Chatham or wherever. Were there different, like, were people reaching out to you to maybe like change some of are there aesthetic things that can, people were more comfortable with the COVID stuff? Does that affect your business at all? Did that change anything? I don't know if that question makes any sense, but like
You're talking about
designs
like
and stuff.
okay, yeah. So I was gonna ask, what you're talking about, like physically, like was I able to enter their home or not?
Oh,
Um,
no. Yeah. Like actually like they bring you in because they're like, hey, we need to, I don't know, open it up more. I don't know if you can even do that.
so much of that. I think people realized because they were stuck home, one, all their vacation budgets they now had to be able to spend on other things. And they were sitting in this home and they're like, oh, we've lived here for 25 years and we've never done anything. Now I want a beautiful kitchen. I want, now I need an office space because now we're required to work from home when we weren't before. You know, a lot of people that were sitting on basement rentals that never did it, they're like, no, we need the extra space. We had family come stay with us for a year or 6 months, depending on, you know, what their situation was.
Right.
And now they wanted to do that. And so many people were looking for more space. I think everyone was feeling very claustrophobic during this time period, which is, you know, it's good for our business. It's great. And I appreciate them calling me to help them situate, you know, a different floor plan or just rearranging their space, even gutting the entire space. It's been a great process with all of my clients. I even the clients that call me at 11 p.m. I got you. Like it's
Right.
it, you know, it's part of the business. And I just, at the end of the day, I want them to have a space that they'll love. But the pandemic, I think, shifted a lot of things for many people.
Right.
It affected so many. And then lumber went up too the
Yeah.
past 6 months, which when you gave quotes to people in, you know, January, February, and now they want to sign with you today, you're like, well, that quote I gave you
Yeah.
doesn't make sense now. But you know, we roll with the punches, and I think every entrepreneur has been facing different things during this time.
Yeah. Well, that's another interesting point, like with lumber and materials and everything, like the prices for all those skyrocketing. And you said that you're busy. And I feel like one of the things that I think I was reading an article that I saw on LinkedIn or something, and it was talking about how even though those prices for all those materials are so high, people are paying them because they just want. So, I mean, obviously, that's something that you've seen as well. Like, why do you think that is?
They just want what they want.
They want what they want. Yeah.
A lot of times we tell ourselves, oh, we don't quote unquote have the money, but somehow when you want something, you find the money.
Right. Yeah.
I've had this happen so many times where I'll tell the client, like, this is the more budget friendly option, and this is what would be your splurge. I mean, 9.5 times out of 10, it's the splurge, and it's like almost on every single thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do I stop showing you your splurge options? And they're like, no, we'll just find them if you don't show it to us.
Yeah.
So what can you say at that point? It's, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, people are willing to pay anything. And I think the creators of custom pieces right now are doing phenomenal because of that, because people don't want to wait 25 weeks to get a bed or
Yeah.
a chair.
Right.
And a lot of my vendors have been able to come in and do custom pieces for us instead for roughly the same amount of money. So it's been good, I think, for all of us, I hope.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I guess we'll see. I did see something else that the prices may start coming down, but
Okay.
I guess we'll see. Don't quote me on that. And by the time this posts, it'll be like one of those cold hard takes things. So it'll be like, well, prices went up, dumb Mike. Yeah, seriously. Yeah. But all right. So one of the other questions that I had, I mean, I always say that one of the questions, I have a lot of questions, but one question would be, you mentioned before, like you go into somebody's, you know, place, they have no, you know, like idea what it is they want. They just know that they want to shake up the look. You know, we've all been there. You want to shake up the look, whether it's clothes or whether it's, you know, your in your space. So do you ever have instances where like you put something together, and this is like, I'm going to try to like softball you a question right now, just as an FYI, where people are just like, they tell you, do whatever you want. And then you do it and they're like, I hate it.
Yeah. That generally doesn't happen to me, and I'll explain why.
Because you're the best, obviously.
Well, no,
Next
I mean,
question.
obviously that was a given.
Right. That was the softball part of the question.
Yeah. But the way I work is I generally give them a mood board first. So we go over color palette, and color scheme first before we even begin any part of the design.
Okay.
So they already know, aesthetics wise at least, like the general feel and look of a project before we begin anything. I never want that to happen. I never want someone to tell me, yeah, you do what you want, and then they go, ew, I want to vomit on this.
Right.
No.
Yeah,
I want you to love your space. I want a 5-star review. Like those things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
So no, I tend to be very transparent with my clients because I want them to be happy with the end result. And there's a long, lengthy process that I go through with them, which is good because it's a lot of front end work, a lot less back end work, if that makes sense. Like we're not scrambling at the end because you didn't like the couch that we purchased. You know full well what you're getting because we sent you a huge email with selections that was very easy for you. You hit approve or decline on every single piece. So if I gave you 4 couches and you picked that one,
yeah,
certainly are the one responsible for
yeah. Yeah. Like how far down does that go? Does it go to like those things that you have on the shelves, like that level of detail, or is it more just like big picture stuff and the rest kind of gets filled in after?
It's more big picture stuff, but when I create the proposal and the mood boards, there will be similar items to that in there. So they'll know like I'm primarily doing like, let's say like, white and black and brass accents. So they already know whatever I bring in is going to be aesthetically pleasing to the overall look.
Sure.
And then we do a walkthrough where we edit out anything that they don't like that's similar to that, to the smaller items.
Yeah.
And that's why I hoard those in my garage. So my garage is like just me hoarding small items from projects or for me to like put into projects. And it's just it's my one little quirk. I have that secret that no one needs to ever see.
Well, now it's on a podcast, and obviously this gets millions of listens, so everyone's gonna know that your garage is full of trinkets.
If anyone needs anything, please call me. I'm willing to sell it all.
Tell me, like, what is actually like on a mood board? Because when you said mood board, my brain, because I don't do this, went directly to like people cutting stuff out of like a magazine and then pasting it onto a like a piece of construction paper or something, and then it's like like a baseball player and like something else and like a tiger, and you're just like, okay, I'm gonna design your space based on this. So is that what that is?
Tigers make it onto our mood board for sure. If you want, some kind
I'm not too far off then, I guess. Yeah.
No, I mean, it's a similar thought process, right? Like if you go onto Pinterest and you create a Pinterest board, think of that sort of thing, where generally when you're doing that, it's similar things because you have one type of aesthetic generally. But what we put on there is small trinkets, possible furniture choices, definitely all the colors that we're going to use, a lot of the fabrics that we choose. And then from that, and it's a digital one, it's not a physical one. So we're not cutting up, cardboard or doing any of that sort of magazine clipping.
Yeah. But I think that's a vision.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. It's similar. It's just, it's for a space. Sure. So we try to include all the things that are going to be incorporated in here. So if it is black and white and like a pecan wood, we'll add in the wood samples in there. We'll add in a brass finish if we're going to do brass versus nickel, or even if we're doing black finishes. A lot of times, especially now with like the ultra modern stuff, we do black finishes. And so all that kind of gets included so that the client gets an overall feel and look of a space before we begin the design process. And some clients request 2 or 3 so that they're like, can we see one that's black and white? Can we see one that's all gray? Can we see one that's green, blue, and orange? And now we've come up with 3 concepts that we email to them. And they're like, no, I want option B. And then we take that and we create their space.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's in depth a little bit, but for us, it's easier because we're like, oh, hey, I want to do a natural wood with a pretty green with, cement or Venetian finish on a wall to kind of like layer things out. And for us, it's a little bit easier to get an overall look and feel and then go through the other processes. It makes it that much better for us and a little bit better for the client, I think.
Right.
So that we have clear understanding of what's going to be taking.
Yeah. So one of the things that you'd mentioned earlier when we were talking about the cafe with the pineapple.
Yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to kind of like lay some more groundwork around this before we started diving in a little bit more specific to some of these things. But
Okay.
one of the things that I was curious about, again, just one of the things, how important if you're designing a space for, let's say, a cafe or something like that, where the business obviously is trying to promote their brand. So talk to me about how imperative it is for the space to kind of match the vibe of that brand.
100,000%. I think this is a mistake a lot of people that open businesses make, where they don't think about the person that's walking in the door, who they are, what they represent, what they want to see, what they want to buy, and the atmosphere that they prefer to be in. If I'm comfortable in this atmosphere, you could probably tell where I shop. You know what I mean? And so if you have this organic gluten-free bakery that has like, smoothie bowls, then yeah, we need pineapples on the wall. You know
Obviously,
what I mean?
right.
We want those sort of cool, organic, like fun vibes. And for us, I think a lot of times, and this has been a big shift, I think, for a lot of us, where we're now creating branding moments. So we take your logo, we take these inspirational things that you've used to create your business, and we put them into your space. Now people can come and take an Instagram photo or, do a YouTube, review of your place. And it has that sort of, one, the feel, and two, this like spectacular shot.
Yeah.
Where I don't think people used to consider that before. It wasn't something that we incorporated into our spaces in the business standpoint. It was just a place that you hung clothes and had a cute little boutique and it had some shelves. But now it's like, no, if your brand is this like luxury brand or whatever you're doing, no, maybe now we need to put a whole dining table. Maybe we need to have it be a lifestyle store. Maybe we need, the pendants to feel like crystals. Maybe we need all of these elements that embody your brand. And I think it's very important. And people, when they don't hire a designer, you can tell
Right.
their brand doesn't come through as much.
Yeah.
Because think about all the smaller little details that other people don't. So I know that, putting those pineapples on the wall or, creating a custom hanging menu that is in line with what they're trying to sell, what they're trying to embody, those smaller things, even the types of tables that we pick out or the type of wood that we use. If we're, trying to create like a tropical theme, then we want to use a lot of like coconut. We want to use straw. We want to use palms, these things that really give that space. Like I just transported you into it.
Right.
That's what it should feel like a portal. You walk through the door, it's a portal. It's a portal into this world that they've created.
Yeah.
So
Right.
It's a big part of it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I would agree. I mean, there's reasons why I like to go to the places that I go to, as I'm sure there's, reasons why you go to the places that you go to.
Yeah.
They may be different, but there's a reason why we go. And I think
Yes.
that's really important. And I think that it's one of those things where, for a variety of reasons, you can get turned off to a place very quickly, just given the fact that, it's like the vibe is off, and that could be the space, it could be whatever it is. But I just was curious about that because you'd mentioned the pineapples on the wall, and then I started thinking about all the places that I've been in. And I was just like, I got to get out of here because this is not me. Yeah.
Where the feng shui is completely off.
Right. My feng shui is like, it's broken. Like it just has no feng shui. Yeah.
It needs to run away.
Yeah. Right. So maybe going out of the, this may be an impossible question to answer, but going out of like the cafes and, businesses and stuff like that into people's homes, do you see like certain things that are kind of like common mistakes that people make when they're designing the inside of their space? I mean, or is it just kind of like, maybe mistake is not the right word, but just things that you see that are just like, no, like I see this all the time and people do it and it's stupid? Or is that just like a personal preference type thing?
I think that's a personal preference. Although, like, when people are creating their spaces, I don't think that it occurs to them to create their spaces in the way that they live. I really, it's a big part of my presentation. I'm like, well, tell me how you live on a day-to-day basis. Because if you cook 6 times a week, I know you need a chef's kitchen, but the person who gets takeout 6 days a week could care less about getting nice appliances or whatever.
Right.
If you have kids, if you have pets, we can include cool doggy doors. Like there's so many small things, and it's the devil in the details always.
Yep.
With whatever you do. And so the way I create spaces for people, one, I want them to create memories there. And so for us, it's our unspoken slogan is that we give you the keys to your memories so that you can create new ones with your family. Oh. And so that's important, right? Like you want to have these special little things. And I always ask parents, especially, to tell me something that's special about their kids, and maybe just like a little quote or something that's significant to them and their kids. And I try to incorporate into the space, either putting up a little sign or creating a pillow or something that gives them that piece of their childhood to take with them on. And it's important. This is, you spend so much of your time in these homes, and it's where you raise your families. It's where you create a happy marriage. It's where you have family dinners. I come from a big family, so I talk about family all the time because it's very important to me. So I want other people to have those same memories that we've created in our homes for them, and to carry it with them throughout their lives, and wherever they go, even if they leave that particular home and they go somewhere else, they'll still have that little piece of their childhood with them, because it's something they can take. It's not necessarily something that stays in the home. It's not wainscoting. It's a personal piece to them.
Right.
And it's nice to have.
Yeah. No, I think that's very cool and a good answer to a terrible question, just because I wasn't sure exactly how to answer that or ask that, but that was a much better answer than I, I'd given you the opportunity to give me. So
I am to please.
So tell me, I mean, let's look forward, like what kind of goals do you have for the business? How do you see maybe I'm sure that there's, different, what do you call that? Trends, in interior design. How do you see kind of the progression of your business and the different trends in interior design taking place? We could even look over like the next couple of years, maybe.
So for my business, I am actually currently growing. I'm hiring more staff and looking for interns. If you know anyone, please call me. Looking for junior designers. We're recruiting, and project management, things like that. And so hopefully in the 5-year span, what I would like to create is a brand that not only first, embodies all the things that I spoke about, but also employs other people. I really want to make an impact in my community. And so growing up in New Jersey and, where my parents came from, and coming here with nothing and living in an attic with a single mom at the time, because my grandfather had passed away. For me, I always think about how far they came and just how far I'd like to go. And I think it's important for me to create something that's withstanding, so that if my kids or my grandkids were to look back on the memory of myself and our family, so they can just understand that we were hardworking people, that we wanted to create something that's everlasting, that is here for not just a minute. And we're growing an entire company, because my family is also in construction. I do a lot of their projects. And so we all kind of overlap. So it's important to me just to keep that tradition growing. So we all take parts, and my cousin studied finance, so he's doing the books, and I do this, and my brother's studying architecture. So it's like all of us took a component of this larger business and created almost like a subdivision of that. And I just want to keep that tradition going. So I hope my kids one day will decide, like, I either want to follow mom's footsteps or, take a different part of the business forward. So I hope to have a multi-million-dollar company in the next 5 years.
That would be incredible. Yeah. So that's another good answer. But the other question that I have off of that is a lot of the people that listen to this show are between the ages of 25 and 35. So I'm 30. So they're somewhere in that age range. A lot of them are in the Northeast, all that kind of stuff. But a lot of them are either entrepreneurs. They're in 9-to-5 jobs and looking to get out and do something else, whether it's investing in real estate, because we do a lot of real estate on this show, starting their own business, different kinds of things like that. So as an entrepreneur, coming from, I would imagine, a family of other entrepreneurs, like you just mentioned. So, like, what are some things that you would recommend to these other people on how to maybe start that entrepreneurial journey?
I just pick a day and go. I mean, there's no secret sauce here. It's like hard work, sweat, tears, like long hours. I won't sugarcoat it for anyone. I work a lot. It's, I work till 11, 12 o'clock and I wake up at 5 and I, do everything else all of us really do. And I think if you've ever met an entrepreneur, the first few years of building a business is hard.
Right.
And, but by you delaying not beginning, you're just hindering yourself. Had I started this company when I was, 22 instead of 32, that would have been a different story. Right. Not that I regret anything that I've done, because I think because I didn't traditionally study this in school, I think I needed that 10 years of reno experience and building experience to really take this forward and be confident in what I could do for other people. But it's hard to say like what specifically is going to work for you, because I know other entrepreneurs that don't work as much as I do. They've taken a different way. A lot of like e-businesses, you know what I mean? They work out of their garage and they become Jeff Bezos.
Yeah. Right. It's a good example for sure.
Yeah. I mean, it really, but again, he decided to start. I didn't have like a fund that began my company. I signed my first client and I used that money to create this. And now we have 15 signed contracts, and we're growing even further. And so, it's a lot of hustle when you're trying to gain traction. I think that's important.
Right.
There's a difference between gaining a client and gaining traction.
Yeah. Right.
You want that steady flow. So, invest in advertising whenever you can. I think that's, a lot of people have told me that, even other architects that I've met, they're like, I wish I had invested a little bit more at the beginning in gaining more traction. And I took that to heart. I had just began my business and someone gave me that piece of advice. And I was like, all right, well, then I'm taking half of this check and we're doing that.
Yeah.
Because I know it will pay off later, and it really has. And then maybe another thing is networking. And I'm, to beat a dead horse, but literally it's just networking. Go out there, meet people, because one person that might not necessarily hire you might know 5 people that would.
Yeah.
And that could be the turning point for you in your business. I'm in multiple networking groups. I network on a weekly basis. I advertise in different ways, and word of mouth is amazing. So whatever way you can get your name out there. And I think Gary Vee talks about this a lot. Like, you're fighting obscurity. Like, who even knows you? Who are you?
Right.
So you just really need to have a presence. And for you to have a presence, you need to do all of those things. And when you're there, you're there.
Yeah.
Everyone will.
Right. Then everyone knows you once they know you.
Yeah.
But nobody does until then. So, and that's the same thing with a lot of things, like personal branding, trying to grow a podcast. I mean, forget it. I mean, growing a business. I mean, it's all part of it, right? Like, the more you put yourself out there, the more you show up, the more you do different things, and just going for it. I mean, like, that's how you start to make a difference just in your life and what you want to accomplish. So if I had waited to now to start the podcast, I probably, wouldn't be where I was now, if that makes sense. So, I mean, I'm a year ahead of where I was last year. So that's just kind of a good way to look at it. And we've come, a long way as you have in your business and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's amazing. So we're coming up to the end of our episode. So we're going to move this into our closing segment.
Okay.
A lot of pressure for this. So we call it Under the Spotlight. So the Spotlighters have been listening to Mike Hamm and Kathy Samaan Noumi talk for 45, 50 minutes, however long we've been going for. What is one thing that you would want them to walk away from this episode with? So you are under the spotlight. Composure.
Let's see. I'm going to say one sentence. Live your truth. That's it.
That's it. Mic drop. We're out. All right.
That's
I like
it.
that. Yeah. No, that's a good one. That's definitely a good one. I think that encapsulates all the things that we have been talking about over the course of the episode. So if people want to reach out and they're just like, holy cow, like I need to get Kathy in my space and I need to change it right now. Where can they go to do that?
You can DM me on Instagram. It's at Samaan_design_group, or go on my website. You can fill out the little questionnaire and they shoot me an email. It's www.SamaanDesignGroup.com. I'm also on Houzz. So you can find me everywhere. You just Google.
Right. Perfect. So I will make sure I put those specific links in the show notes for everybody listening. If for some reason you want to go through me to get to Kathy, you can email me at themorningspotlight@gmail.com or go to the website, themorningspotlight.com. Be happy to make the connection if for some reason you think that she's so intimidating that you can't reach out to her. Kathy, thank you so much for coming on with us today. This was your first ever podcast episode, and it was incredible. Incredible. A natural.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. You too. And the Spotlighters, thank you for listening, and we will catch you next time.